So today I've come to meet Kate and James, who have a hugely successful EV YouTube channel. And we EV drivers like to moan about how inconvenient things sometimes can be, but those guys have been doing it for 10 years. So I'm really keen to know about their journey, like really big journey. So tell me, how did it all start for you?
It all started quite a while ago when James decided he wanted me to get rid of my Clio Sport.
So quite a while ago, being
9-10 years-ish, a long time. But yeah, I loved my Clio Sport, and James was like, no, I think, it's time, let's have a look at this electric car. And he won me over, and we got our first electric car, which was our Nissan Leaf.
There's a lot of moaning. We do a lot of moaning in the EV community, don't we, about, oh, well, there's not much in terms of charging facilities. But we're moaning now about the inefficiencies and the this and the that. But then, was there anywhere to charge that wasn't your house?
Well, the only thing that we really had was Ecotricity, which was, I think, randomly placed along the motorway, and you didn't always know if it was going to work. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. You just had to hope for the best.
Well, some things haven't changed.
No, they haven't.
Do you think it takes a certain kind of person still to be choosing EV?
Perhaps in the past, yes. You had to be somebody who was determined to really want to do it. But now, pretty much, well, most of the cars that are coming into the market have got really decent ranges, and they're just going up and up and up. And I think the infrastructure is better. I think there's a lot less for you to be worrying about.
It's a lifestyle thing, really, isn't it? I mean, does it suit everyone?
I think people are quite set in their ways in terms of petrol and diesel. And I think, understandably, that's what we've lived with for however long. And I think some people may find it harder to change. But I think as things get better, then I think it will be easier for everybody.
What does it feel like for you when you see things like when you turn up and there's a bank of chargers? What does that feel like?
Exciting, because we're so used to not seeing that. When you get there and you're like, oh my goodness, there's 12 chargers in one place. Yeah, it's amazing considering what we've come from.
Yeah. So I'm really new to this game and on a really steep learning curve. What are your top tips for someone like me who, okay, I'm committed now, I've made that decision. What do I need to know? What's useful? What's really handy?
Try not to be anxious. I think that would be my top tip, because I think the people who are anxious are going to be the people who keep topping up their battery constantly, and actually that's not great for your battery. The best thing to do is to use that range. Don't let it get so low that you're leaving it low constantly. Do charge it, but just don't be so anxious you're constantly feeling you need to stop all the time. There's loads of things you can do to kind of help you extend your range, I suppose, if you are somebody who's a bit more concerned about your range. So little things like leaving your car plugged in, charging before you're about to go somewhere, and using that to then heat up your car before you get in the car. So your car's already hot, and it's using the grid to heat it up.
Interesting. That's a really useful tip, because I've noticed the heating really makes a massive difference to my range.
It does. It really, really does.
And I quite like, on the flip side of that, I quite like it because I can go, I'd rather have the extra 20 miles, thanks, and turn the heating off.
But use your heated seat. If you've got heated seat, that's what we do. Or if you've got ventilated seats, some cars do. We don't, but I have had them, and they're fantastic in the summer. You have a nice cold bottom. Don't go really fast off the lights, because you've got all this power.
You have got all this power.
You've got so much torque because you haven't got to go through the gears. So you put your foot down and you've got instant power. And it's really tempting to kind of want to do the traffic light Grand Prix and just like slam your foot down and just to push your car a little bit, because it feels good, I suppose, doesn't it? But if you do that, obviously you're using a lot of miles by doing that. And use your eco button. If I'm driving a Leaf or an MG, I will always have it in the eco setting. I never take it out.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Yeah. So tell me then, moving on to cars, how many do you reckon you've driven in your 10 years of driving EV?
Oh my word. I gotta say it's probably nearer, I don't know, how many models are there now? As many as have come out, I'd say. As many as we can fit in that have come out onto the market.
So you started with your Leaf.
Yeah.
And what do you have today?
We have a Tesla Model 3 currently, which I personally really love.
What do you love about it?
It feels luxurious. It's got this feeling to it. It's so chilled to drive. Like all electric cars are chilled to drive. I think you sit, you end up with your arm on the armrest, and you're not having to think about gears. You're not having to think about anything. It's so smooth. It's so quiet. It's just a really nice drive. And with the Tesla, you just have that feeling of just kind of chill. It's just a lovely car to drive.
And what's your range?
Our range, I think, is this is bad, isn't it? I think between 240 and 250.
Beyond the point where you need to care, obviously. It's not a worry for you, obviously. Whereas I'm like, on a cold day, 144. But it might be, I might be able to eke it up if the temperature's. I'm still at that stage.
You get over it though. I promise.
It's so funny.
But yeah, it is nice having a car with a bigger range. I've got to say, I charge it once a week. Sometimes that's it. But yeah.
Lovely. And what have you learned in terms of pros and cons? I mean, what are the cons? Let's be honest. There are cons.
You have less miles available to you than you would with a petrol or diesel car on a full tank. But I mean, for me, that's probably the only con. I don't think I'd ever consider going back to internal combustion, even if it was an option. Obviously it's not going to be.
What do you think the biggest obstacle is?
At the moment, price. I think a lot of the cars that are available on the market at the minute are overpriced. And availability. A lot of cars, a lot of companies, brands have got huge waiting lists, and people don't want to wait.
So, have you ever run out of juice?
Yes, we have.
Ah!
We didn't admit this for years.
And what happens when you do?
Well, on one occasion, we managed to make it to a charger just by going into turtle mode and then coasting through the service station. Just by luck, we managed to be on a hill. So we did that. Second time, I'm afraid we did have to give in and call the AA.
I mean, also, in your early days, there weren't that many chargers around.
No.
What are the biggest changes you've seen in your 10 years?
Chargers, the amount of chargers, like you say, they were just sporadically placed, whereas now they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. Just everywhere you go, you see them. McDonald's have got them.
And there's this combination, I guess, of more chargers and more range.
Yeah, definitely.
Because what was the biggest range you could get when you started?
Ours was 90 on a good day, on a warm day.
Oh.
On a cold day, you're looking at 10 miles less than that, but that's before you put your heater on. So, you had to plan ahead and be warm, really? Or plug it in and heat it up first. Yeah. So yeah, massive difference.
But now the range is
insane.
Yeah.
Some of them now, they're talking about ranges over 400 with some of the models they're talking about coming out. But yeah, a majority of new models that are coming out are over 200 or getting towards 200.
So EV drivers will just be like, what's range?
Yeah, exactly. We know
EV drivers of the future. Range? What's that?
Remember the days when? Yeah.
Yeah.